So what I wanted to offer you today, this is an offering of a practice that now is a very, very important practice. It's a practice on expanding the circle of love, the circle of your heart. So the circle of love is basically we have people that are within the circle of our love, of our heart, and we have people that are outside the circle of our heart. There's people that are outside the circle of our heart. We've put them on the outside of the circle of the heart. We don't feel a great love for them, a great feel. We don't feel a great compassion. We don't feel like holding them in our love. We don't feel that we love them. This could be relatives who have wronged you in some way, or maybe an ex-wife or ex-husband that you had a bitter divorce over, or politicians that are on the other side that you disagree with and you think are doing terrible things, and people that are doing terrible things, people that have seriously betrayed you, people who have lied to you and hurt you or even abused you. So those people are outside of our circle of love, and maybe a stranger, somebody that, like causes an accident, when you're driving, or yells at you in some way or something, or a homeless man who's muttering to himself and swearing at you. You put those people on the outside of your circle of love. You don't feel a great love for them. And I'll explain to you and show you why this is so damaging to you. It's damaging to you and it's damaging to the world. And we all do this. We all create this circle of love of people that are inside the circle that we love, we feel safe to love and we love them, and people that are outside the circle that we don't love, that we don't feel an enormous love for. So, what happens in the world, as we can see now, that in social media and in media today, in the I was born in 1949, so essentially I grew up in the 50s. In that time, there were three television channels. There were more radio channels, but there were three television channels, and people tended to watch certain events. Almost the entire country watched the same thing, saw the same thing, had the same information. And yes, this was brainwashing too, but people were being brainwashed by the same brainwashing. So they had this a commonality. You know, the Beatles came on the Ed Sullivan Show. All young people saw this. We all saw this. Uh, Kennedy was assassinated, and everybody saw this. They showed this at schools. They showed this, and the whole nation mourned over this. We all saw this at the same time and kind of felt the same things, most of us. Some people who maybe hated Kennedy didn't feel a love and a grief over this, but most of us did. Many of us did. Um, when the first rocket ship went to the moon, the first person landed on the moon, we all felt this and kind of felt a thrill and sort of a cheer, and we're sort of part of this whole thing. And it's not like that anymore. Things are very divided. The media and social media has different groups that they sort of set apart from one another. And, if you're in this group, then you get all the information for this group. And if you're in another group, you get all the information for another group. And we can't, if we're the group we're in, we can't understand the people who have the stuff in the other group. They're the information they're getting. Where are you getting this from? What? Where? How? It's totally perplexing to us because we're not getting the same information as they're getting. They're getting information tailored to them. Likewise, there's people who watch most of the media or Fox News and Breitbart and right-wing media, and it's different. What they hear is totally different from what we hear. It's completely different, a completely different story, a completely different spin on the same story. So we're divided into these tribes, these small groups, and it's damaging to the country and it's damaging to ourselves because it makes us smaller, right? Our circle of love is smaller. It's just getting increasingly smaller for everyone. The circle of love is getting smaller. If we love Trump, then the people who, are against Trump or don't like Trump or don't support Trump or point to his lies, then we don't like them. They're in the outside of our circle. They're outside of our circle of love. And if we hate Trump, then the people who support Trump and love Trump and spread, whatever information he has, lies or not, we don't like them. They're outside our circle and we can't communicate with them. Even people in our own family, if there's a political difference, if we don't like Trump and somebody else in our family does like Trump, we can't even really talk to them. They're so far outside of our experience and our understanding and our circle of love. So this is very damaging to us. I want you to understand how damaging it is to us personally to have this circle of love become smaller and smaller. Often this happens as people get older, as people age, and it actually has a physical damage to their bodies to do this, to have this smaller and smaller circle. They just become sort of hunched over and old and decrepit and fragile, frail, because their love is getting smaller and smaller. There's less people in it. They've taken people who were inside and somebody wronged them or slighted them or insulted them in some way, or they just imagined it, and they took them out. And they took somebody else out. And they took they had a messy divorce and they took their spouse out, their ex-wife or husband out. And different politicians, they took them out. And people who disagree with them, they took them out. So more and more people are in the outside of the circle of love. So the circle of love becomes smaller. And the circle of love is what we are. So the people become smaller. And as they age, they hunch over and literally become smaller. There's people who age and they're not small. They're not all hunched over and like closed in on themselves. They don't walk in a hunched over way. They're open to the world and their eyes shine brightly like a young child's, right? Because their circle of love hasn't closed. It's gotten bigger instead of smaller. Those are wise people. So I want to show you how to expand your circle of love, how to make it bigger, and why this is so important. You may say, well, some people are unforgivable, right? They're unforgivable. They've done such terrible things that I cannot forgive them. And yes, humans do terrible things. Many humans do really terrible things. And it's very hard to find any reason to love them or to like them. They don't give us anything. There's nothing. They're not giving us anything to love. They're only doing bad things. They're only doing harmful things. They're only doing despicable things. How can we love them? Well, you can. You can. For your own sake, you can love them. You put them from the outside, where you've moved them outside of your circle, unforgivableness, unlovable, and you take them and just put them back into your heart, into the circle of love. Anyways, you do this for you. You do this for you. It's a practice. You have to be willing to do it, but it's not hard because everyone is love. You are love. That's your essential nature. That's the truth of what you are. Society has taught you not to love. It's taught you to move people outside of your circle of love, to say, there's they. They are not in my circle of love. They are different. They are terrorists. They're not coming in my circle of love. You know, they are people that have done terrible things. They are outside. Hitler is outside my circle of love. I don't want him in there. And many people might feel Donald Trump, he's outside. He's a narcissist. He's lying. He's creating division and hatred in the country. So we put him on the outside. It's natural. He isn't doing many things to love, really. I mean, people do support him and love him. I don't understand why. I have no reason to love Donald Trump. No reason. I cannot find a single reason to love Donald Trump other than that I feel sorry for him and compassion for his not having experienced love in his life. That would be a terrible burden for anybody. But I put him into my heart, into the circle of love. And when I do, I feel better. I feel expanded. I feel larger. I feel more. So it has a great effect on me to put Donald Trump in the circle of love when I'd removed him, because I had removed him. And sometimes someone will do something else terrible, you put them out, and then you bring them back in, and then they do something else terrible, and you put them back out again. So sometimes the practice you have to do over and over again to bring back into the circle of love, back into your heart, back into love. And a very interesting thing happens that I noticed today. A very interesting thing happens when you take the person, like for instance Donald Trump, and you take him and move him into the circle of love, he dissolves. He dissolves into love. Because all I know about Donald Trump is what other people tell me about him. Interviews and things that he says and stuff, but it's all his projection of his persona. He doesn't know who he is either. Nobody does. Nobody knows who they are. He doesn't either. He has this image of himself that is not what he is. He's love. Everybody is love. But most people can't see this. They think they're a person. They think they're an individual with a history and a story and a life and successes and failures and things they're proud of and things they want people to see about them. But none of that is actually true. They're just love. And so when we bring Donald Trump into the circle of love, which is truth, he dissolves into love. Because outside the circle of love, there's everything the media says about him. There's everything that I've learned from seeing him over the years in New York, or all the things that he did there before he ever became president. So people in New York don't trust Donald Trump because they know about him before he ever became president. He's notorious as a liar and somebody who's cheating people and things like that. So so bringing him into the circle of love, all that stuff that I know about him from not ever having met him, never having met him personally, only knowing what the media says about him, only knowing what supporters and detractors say about him. That's all I know about him. And most of them have never met him either. So all that dissolves because none of that is really true. If people look at Donald Trump and they don't see love, they're not seeing truth. They're not seeing what he really is. This is true for everybody, for Hitler, for Mussolini, for Osama bin Laden, for anybody that you feel hatred for, or you feel that not trust, or you feel that you don't like, and people that you love as well. Everybody. Everybody is just love, just as you are. That's the truth of what everybody is. Nobody can be outside of this. That's the nature of what people are. But in our conditioned world of duality, we see people and we have stories about these people. You're like that. You're like this. This is your story. This is what I feel about you. And here's what you feel about, and this is what you feel about me. This is my story. This is how I come across to you and how you perceive me as a person. But none of that is true. The story of me, whether you're thinking it or I'm thinking it, is not true. My story of me is just as false as your story of me. Maybe a different story, but neither of them are true. The truth is, here, there's just love. Not a person, not an object, not a body, not a mind, just love itself. Infinite, unbounded, undivided, unconditional love. And when we start expanding the circle of love, we start realizing this. Not only everybody else that we put into the circle of love dissolves in love, in this ocean of love, but we realize that we have too. Everything we think about ourselves is also dissolved in this ocean of love. And this is an amazing practice to do because there's something else about love which people don't understand. Love has a power that's inconceivable to the mind. This extraordinary power that's literally inconceivable to the mind. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't need to do anything. Just the love itself does everything. How do you think all these things happen from these silent transmissions? It's just love. All the effects that everybody's experiencing and feeling, it's just love. It's very, very powerful. It can heal physical illness in the body. It's extraordinarily powerful. But we have to let love be love and not interfere with it, not think we understand what it is or try and direct it to do something, which is absurd. That's just our mind doing it. Love is far more powerful than our mind ever could be, or our person, our limited little person. Love is so much more than that. So we take whoever's outside our circle of love, and we all have people outside our circle of love, don't we? And we move them inside. Maybe you can begin with people who are you don't totally hate, you just sort of like they're just annoying to you or something, or you don't really know them, but they did one thing to you that you didn't like, and that moved them outside the circle of love. You didn't even notice them before, but they did something and they said, okay, they're not in the circle of love. It's not like you took them out of the circle of love. They're just you just didn't put them in. So we can have someone like that and just see what happens if you put them in. Just notice what happens if you really put them into the circle of love. Now, what is this circle of love? Well, you love people, right? You've loved people. There's people that you love right now. When your heart is totally open to that person, when you're just feeling love, and they seem to not so much like a subject or an object that you love, but they kind of dissolve into love, and you just feel really, really good being with them because you're feeling the circle of love. You're feeling your love. You're feeling your true nature as love, and that always feels good. In fact, there's nothing in the world that feels better than that. So you've experienced that. Maybe it's only with a pet. Maybe your circle of love has become so small that the only thing that you can love is your dog because you trust the dog to love you as long as they don't poop on the rug or something. And maybe you put them outside for a bit out of your circle of love when they poop on the rug. But when you come home and they're like jumping in you and licking you and they giving you so much love, you can open your heart and feel love for them. That's the circle of love. So you put everyone in that circle of love, no matter what they do. They don't have to jump on you and bark and lick your face. They can give you the finger, you know, say something rude to you. They can be a politician that you don't like. You put them in anyway. You're not putting them in because they're doing things to deserve to be in your circle of love. This is for you. If you're waiting for everybody to deserve to be in your circle of love, to do good things and be good, decent people, there's many people that will never go in your circle of love because they're not good people. They're not decent people. They're very, very flawed people that create a lot of suffering and harm in the world because they're suffering. Someone like Donald Trump has never experienced love in his life. It's very clear. You can see all that's true for all malignant narcissists. They've never experienced love. That's why they're narcissists. It's not that they love themselves. It seems like they do, but they don't. They actually hate themselves and everyone else too because they have never experienced love. Most of us have experienced love at some point in our life. And if you have, can you imagine? Can you imagine what it would be like never in your entire life to have ever experienced love? I can't imagine it. I imagine that would be the worst hell that anybody could experience. My mother was like that. And I felt that. I felt that she had never experienced love. She wouldn't allow herself to experience love. And it gave me such compassion for her because I realized that that is the worst hell that any human being can ever experience. You can lock someone in a dungeon and torture them every moment of their life, and it's not even going to come close to as bad as someone who has never experienced love. That's a horrible life to live. And I think Donald Trump lives that life, which is why he creates harm for other people and he has no compassion or love for anybody else. And he can easily, no caring, create harm and suffering for other people. And he's angry all the time. Who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be if that was your life? All of us would be. All of us would do the same harm that Donald Trump is doing, maybe worse. Because when we suffer that much, we want everyone else to suffer too. That's our only purpose in life is create suffering for other people because we're so miserable. So yes, there are people like that. Hitler was no bargain. And we don't have to say, one way of doing it is people can say, yeah, but maybe Hitler was nice to his dog, so maybe that I can use that to bring him in. No, don't worry about what they did. Yes, they did terrible things. Understand that they did terrible things. You're bringing them into your circle of love so that you love them. You love them unconditionally. Real love is unconditional. It doesn't say you need to do good things or you need to love me in order for me to bring you into the circle of my heart, in order to trust you enough to bring you in here. This is a very special place and I only reserve it for very, well, that's just making your life miserable. The bigger your circle of love is, the better you are. The bigger you are, the better you are, the happier you are, the more loving you are, and the better your life is. So you bring those people into your circle of love for you. You don't have to support them, do anything nice to them. You can work to have their defeat, as I do with Donald Trump. I don't want him to win election. I do it whatever I can to help him not win election, to defeat him. But still, I love him. He's in the circle of love. Not him as a person, just he's in this love. He's not excluded from this love. Because if he's excluded from this love, then I'm smaller. I'm worse off. I'm more unhappy. And I've experienced that with him. When he's outside the circle of love, I don't feel good. I feel smaller. I feel more contracted. I feel more limited. When I bring him in, it's so much better. So much better. So love is love. If someone commits crimes and does terrible things, it doesn't mean you don't call the police and have them arrested and have them thrown in jail, but they're still in your heart. You still love them because in a way, your actions of having them put in jail is loving a loving action for them. Because if they're not in jail, they're just going to commit more crimes, and that's karma is not good. It's going to make their life worse. At least you're preventing them from being able to do that anymore. That's a favor to them. Just as it's a favor to Donald Trump to help him not be elected so he can't create more suffering for people, because that's not good for him, even though he thinks it is. It's not. Creating suffering in the world is not good for us. It makes us smaller. Imagine how small the circle of love is for Donald Trump. Even his children and his wife, I don't think he has any love for them either. And they can't really love him. It's like his circle of love is probably as small as something that could be fit in the head of a pin. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be that. That's not good for us, and it's not good for the world. Right now, terrorism, homegrown terrorism, is a big problem in this country, particularly with right-wing militia groups and white supremacists and neo-Nazis and stuff. It's growing hugely in this country, and the damage that they're doing is enormous. And we could feel like, I want to put those people outside my circle of love. Look, they're killing people, they're racist, they're doing these horrible things, and they're spreading hate through social media. I want them to be on the outside. But no, bring them into, bring them into the circle of love and just see what happens. You feel better. They dissolve in this because what do we know about Donald Trump and neo-Nazis and white supremacists and racists? Only what we read and hear in the media. It's a cartoon. It's a two-dimensional cartoon, just like Donald Trump is to us. He's really just a two-dimensional cartoon. The evil villain is a two-dimensional cartoon. It's not real. It's superficial. It's nothing like what it is. And when we bring these people into our circle of love, suddenly they not only dissolve into love, but they become what they are in no longer two-dimensional, right? They expand and we see like so much more of them, so much more than they ever see of themselves. Because love is intelligent. Love has an intelligence that's beyond anything that any mind can understand, and a power beyond anything that any mind or scientist can understand. And you only really know this when you do this practice and expand your heart and bring more beings into the circle of love. Yes, your mind is saying, I don't want to do that. I don't trust them. They're not good enough. They have to prove themselves to me. They need to say they love me. There's a beautiful movie. Um, Nicolas Cage starred in it, and he played twin brothers. I don't remember the name of it now. But anyways, he played twin brothers, and one brother was very successful. He was a screenwriter. He wrote the movie Being John Malkovich, and actually the guy who wrote that movie was the one who wrote this movie too. So it was about him. And so this brother was very successful, but kind of neurotic, not really happy with his life, but very successful. And his twin brother was the opposite. He was happy-go-lucky, but totally not successful in anything he did. And he didn't care, He just sort of going through life, having a good time, moment to moment. Whereas the other brother was planning and doing the scripts and having meetings and worried about his relationships and worried about the next job he would have and doing better. And so the brother that's successful had no respect for his twin brother at all. He just thought he's a loser. And he just showed he'd had no respect for him. And at some point in the movie, somebody's trying to kill them. They've got a shotgun and they're going to hunting them, and they're running away and hiding. And they're in a swamp in, I think, Louisiana, and they hide behind a log, right, where they can't be seen, and they're crouched down behind this log in the water in the swamp, and they're figuring, well, this is it, right? This is the end. They're going to die really soon. They can't escape them forever. They have no way to get out of the swamp, and the person that's hunting them will just kill them, and there's really no hope for them. So they figure they're going to die pretty soon. So the successful brother says to his twin, when I lost respect for you, I have to say this is when I just lost all respect for you. It was in junior high school. and you were just totally in love with this girl in our class, and she was with her friends, and you went up and talked to her for a little bit, and you were just like totally madly in love with her. And as you walked away, they were laughing among each other, and she was saying like, "What a dork, what a loser. He's the biggest loser. He thinks I would go out with him. I would never go out with that loser." And they were all laughing. It was a big joke on you, and you had no idea that this was happening. You didn't know at all. And his twin brother said, "No, I heard every word. I knew exactly what was going on. But I can love anyone that I want to. I can love anyone I want to. It's my love. I can love anyone I want to. I can give my love to anyone. It doesn't matter what they do. They don't have to love me back. They don't have to do anything. It's my love." And in that moment, a successful brother realized that his twin was actually smarter than he was, that he actually knew a secret to life that the successful brother had never learned yet, which is why his life was so unhappy, even though he was successful. Because we can love anyone. We can bring anyone into the circle of our heart. They don't have to earn it. They don't have to be nice to us. They don't have to promise to love us. Why would we restrict our love so much? They would have all these rules and requirements for who we love. And I just thought this was brilliant. You know, the rest of the movie was okay, but this was brilliant. This was the most brilliant thing that I think I have ever seen in any movie. That one line, I can love anyone I want, you know? And I thought like, wow, this screenwriter, he's onto something, man. He's onto something. He has a spiritual wisdom and knowledge about him that you don't often see in Hollywood or almost ever. And so I was very impressed with that. And I put it actually in my book, in the Zen of Love. I wrote about this because it is such an important thing. And it fits into this practice of expanding your circle of love. If this twin can bring a girl who's teasing him and laughing at him and hates him and thinks he's a total loser into his circle of love, why can't we bring Donald Trump in? Why can't we bring somebody who has betrayed us, who's lied to us, or continues to lie to us into our circle of love? It doesn't mean we have to be friends with them. It doesn't mean we have to even talk to them or have anything to do with them. We just have to love them for our sake, for the sake of the world. We have to love them. Because right now, people's circle of love is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and more people are outside of their circle of love. And that's what's happening. And the media, the conditioning, social media is all helping that happen. I was at a conference, a summit, um, this past Saturday, and it was Pure Presence, a Pure Presence summit. A lot of A Course in Miracles things, and Bill Free, who had started it and ran it, it was the pure presence of love. The idea was the pure presence of love that we are, to expand this pure presence of love. And this conference really was wonderful. This conference on social media, on Zoom, did that. It expanded the circle of love for everybody. And everybody felt wonderful because the circle of love was expanded. So we can do that in our own life as a practice. Everybody that you bring into the circle of love will give you that feeling and that feeling of expansion and will expand you and will benefit the world. I'll talk about this more in some other sessions because it's so important and it's so necessary to do now. The circle of love of most people has gotten so small, not just old people, but everyone. We're in these little tribes, and everybody in the tribe outside the tribe, and these cults, and everybody outside the cult is outside the circle of love. And only what's in the cult is in the circle of love. And these get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Soon, the people in the tribe, there's people in the tribe that are not in the circle of love. You know, the media is not in the circle of love. Politicians are not in the circle of love. The police are not in circle of love. If we're racist, black and minority people are not in the circle of love. Just more and more people are not in the circle of love. And this is what we're encouraged to do by our society. And it's not healthy. And it's not healthy for you. So, for your own sake, expand your circle of love. Open your heart up and bring more and more and more people in. See what happens. See what happens when you bring the people that you least want in the circle of love, the people that you have the most resistance to, the most anger towards, the most hatred towards, the most suspicion of, the most fear of. Bring them in. Bring them into the circle of love because you can do it. You are love. And eventually your heart will expand until the entire world and all beings are within it. And then you'll know who you are. For the first time, you'll really know who you are. And you will be such a blessing in this world because the power of love will act through you. It doesn't have to do anything. You may do things, you may teach, you may speak, you may do physical actions that help the world, or you may just love. And really, that's the most important thing. It may not seem like it. We're so taught that we have to be a doer and do something. But actually, love is the most important thing that we can do. It's the most important thing we can be. The more people we bring into the circle of love, the more we know who we are, the more we are in alignment with our true nature of love itself. So do this practice for you. Do this practice for you. Thinking that people are unforgivable and they cannot come into your circle of love. It's just a choice. It's just a choice. It's just a decision. You've learned how to put people outside the circle of love. You don't believe that you can put them inside the circle of love, but you can. You don't even have to learn how to do it. You just do it. You just make the choice like, I choose to love, And we think in order to love Donald Trump, we have to find something good about him to love. Well, there isn't that much, or anything maybe. So you're wasting your time doing that. It's just a lot of effort and work, and it's not going to work in the end. Just love. Just bring him into the circle of your heart, circle of love. Anyways, no matter what he does, no matter what anybody does, just bring them in and see what happens. It's a practice. And like any practice, it's like a scientific experiment. Subjective, not objective. Bring them in and see what happens to you. See what happens when you bring somebody outside your circle of love, someone you hate, someone you fear, when you bring them into the circle of love and feel love for them. See what happens to you. Do this a few times and you'll understand how healthy this is, why this is the way in this world to be. And then, amazingly enough, if you do this enough, you'll realize that the world is changing too. Not just your perception of the world, which will definitely change immediately, but actually the world, because you're bringing more love into the world, not less. And that's what the world needs. It's not just a song by Burt Bacharach. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's not the love that it needs. That's just a romantic idea of love. It needs actual love. It's very, very, very important. In fact, there's nothing more important. And you can do this. You can be the vehicle for love in the world simply by your choice, being willing to love, because love is your true nature. It doesn't take the same kind of effort as not loving. It doesn't take all the mental idea of like, well, I don't love them because of this or this. It's not the same. It's not like, well, I love them because of these characteristics that they have. It has nothing to do with that. Love just loves. It just loves. It doesn't make determination about who is should be loved and who should earn your love. That's not what love does. Love has never done that. Love just loves. And so if you make the choice to allow love to love, they're in the circle of your heart just like that. You just need to make the choice. That's the practice, making the choice over and over again. Thank you, my friend. Many blessings and much love to you. And I hope you do this practice because the world really needs it, and so do you.